Tujitoe wenyewe, tusimame pamoja kulinda uhuru na umoja wetu. Enyi bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote, tuimbe pamoja, kuenzi shikamano hatima yetu. Tujitoe wenyewe kupambana pamoja, uhuru na umoja vitawale. Enyi bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote na tujibidishe kutoa kilicho bora kwa Afrika, chimbuko la wanadamu, chemchemi ya utamaduni, tumaini letu wakati wa mafarakano. Enyi bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima.
We are making this world the tree of life. This is Man CV Africa, and this is Katum Kata, a Ghanaian lawyer interested in issues of human rights, and of course, part of Man TV Africa. We are here to empower you to know your human rights, but of course, to know how these rights are being violated today. We're talking about slavery, modern day slavery, and human trafficking, how it affects you, and how you can afford to fight back. How do you stop slavery? How do you stop human trafficking? Watch this video, and then we shall be able to continue. Remember to subscribe to Humans TV Africa. Remember to subscribe to Humans TV Africa. The handle is right there, Humans TV Africa. Please subscribe. It is Humans TV Africa. We are on YouTube. We are on Facebook. We are everywhere. This is a registered non-government organization. Humans TV Africa is a registered non-government organization working in different countries in the world. We are in the US, we are in the UK, we are in Ghana, we are in Nigeria, we are in Sierra Leone, we are in Zambia, Zimbabwe, we are in Uganda and Kenya, and we are growing. In the studio today is Hassan Hussein Baya, based in Kenya, doing the production. And of course, I want to encourage you to send us that email. Our email is info@humanstvafrica.com. Our email is info@humanstvafrica.com, and that is your number to reach to us. Let us go straight into the show, human trafficking. Have a look at this video.
كان شغال المحطوط الانترنت هناك.
للامانه الشهاده لله ما اساسها بيه زينه، ولو دقعتها الساعه 5 الفجر ما تكشف نفسها وزينه.
فينا نشوفها.
In the Gulf, women employed as domestic workers are being sold online via apps approved and provided by Google and Apple. It's been called an online slave market. Our BBC News Arabic team posed as a husband and wife looking to buy a domestic worker in Kuwait.
Ready?
Yes. An app called For Sale is used to buy and sell domestic workers alongside cars and TVs.
فينا احنا اثنين نحكي.
قل له انا وزوجتي على التليفون معك هلا.
The BBC team spoke to 57 users of For Sale who were selling their domestic workers online for thousands of pounds. Most women had no knowledge they were being advertised online and then sold.
عندها فكرة ان هي حتنتقل على مكان ثاني او ما عندها مانع بالموضوع؟
ما قلت لها، انا قلت لها.
ما قلت لها؟
ما عندها مشكلة، واحدة جاية تشتغل.
app users were violating national and international law on modern slavery, human trafficking, and forced labour by selling these women. They were also denying domestic workers their basic human rights.
إجازة بتاخد إجازة؟
لا إحنا ككويتيين ما نخليه صراحة مجرمين.
اوكي. بالنسبة للموبايل وهيك؟
لا انسى موضوع الموبايل هذا، ما اعتقد انه يعني هذا من النوع اللي مو متعلم، فاهمني؟
يعني ما بتتكلم مع اهلها مثلا، اذا بتتكلم مع اهلها او كذا؟
يمكن مع اهلها تعطيك مرة في الشهر.
والقانون ايش بقول طيب؟
القانون احنا ما نمشي على القانون.
It's not the only app being used to sell women online. The BBC found hundreds of domestic workers for sale on Saudi app Haraj and Facebook-owned Instagram.
كيف حالك أخي؟ إن شاء الله طيب.
The undercover team arranged to meet with some of the sellers in person.
إن شاء الله بخير. الله يسلمك.
One of them, who told us he was a policeman, urged our team to break the law by confiscating the domestic worker's passport and denying her any time off.
شو بسوي بالمرور شرطة والنعم
جواز ما تعطيه، انت كفيلها. ليش تعطيه جواز؟ ما يصير.
والله ما بعرف، انا مستغرب، انا بالنسبة لي مستغرب يعني هيك.
جواز تخش عندك تجوري.
اوكي.
حق نظام، حق تنظيف، حق كل شيء.
هيدا نحط الإعلان من ساعة.
A new ad appears on For Sale. An African domestic worker for $3,800.
ألو مرحبا.
هلا
كيفك شكرا؟ عم بتصل فيك بخصوص العاملة الأفريقية على فور سيل.
ايه انا شهر ونص وبنت حلال وشوشة، ما تطلب شيء وآدمية.
في مجال شوفها أتعرف عليها أنا وزوجي هون، هو هلأ حد عم نتصل فيك.
حياكم الله.
شكرا.
The undercover team get ready to meet the seller.
First exit.
Nothing to prepare them for what happens next.
انت وجه الاسئله نعم.
اي لا انا بدي اتعرف عليها. هلو. مرحبا.
الله يسلمك. الله يسلمك.
تمام وانت؟ هاي.
والله العظيم ما كانت تزعل. شوفي هذا بابا هذا ماما. اسمها ايه اسمها عربي لانها مسلمة.
من غانا ولا من
الاثنين؟ انا انسى من كذا ما غانا غينا مدري شنو.
من وين؟
ها؟
غينيا. اوكي.
كل الناس تبي الخدم.
اكيد.
بس قدر الامكان نبي بالها بيت خفيف.
قد ايه
شوفي
عمرك؟
ماما هذه ماما هذا بابا.
قد ايه عمرك؟
اقول لكم الصدق اتركوا الاوراق، اقول لكم الصدق يعني عشان ترى عمرها 16.
We're shocked to find this woman offering to sell us a child. The young girl seems withdrawn and confused.
كلمة ويا ماما.
Je vais te parler en français. Tu as quel âge? Combien? 16 ans.
مسكينه ايه حسيت انا شوي هيك شي واز انتيوز شوي هيك.
هلا هي بتستحي صوتها ما بيطلع كثير بتستحي.
By employing a domestic worker under the age of 21, this woman is breaking Kuwaiti law and could face up to 6 months in prison. We showed our footage to Amila Bula, the UN Special Rapporteur on contemporary forms of slavery.
This is the quintessential example of modern slavery. Here we see a child being sold and traded like chattel, like a piece of property. What they are doing is illegal. It is not only in violation of national Kuwaiti law, it is a violation of international human rights law and labor standards. So if Google, Apple, Facebook, or any other companies are hosting apps like these, they have to be held accountable. What they are doing is promoting an online slave market.
Google, Apple, and Facebook all claim that they prohibit modern slavery and human trafficking on their platforms. But we found thousands of domestic workers being illegally sold through hashtags used on Instagram and other apps provided by Google and Apple. The online slave market would not be possible without the system of employment used across the Gulf known as kafala, where a domestic worker's visa is tied to their employer or sponsor. Under this system, the domestic worker cannot quit their job or leave the country without their sponsor's permission. Kuwait has some of the strongest laws to prevent sponsors from abusing this system, but apps like For Sale, Haraj, and Instagram enable employers to sell the sponsorship of these workers to other employers for a profit, creating an unregulated black market that leaves women more vulnerable to abuse and exploitation.
That's the problem with that kind of system, is that the employer thinking that they own already the worker, but it shouldn't be the situation. It's only the service, but not the totality of the person.
Together we are stronger.
Anna Bunda is the founder of Sandigan, an NGO which campaigns for the welfare and rights of domestic workers in Kuwait. Following Anne's advice, we show our video of the underage girl to Kuwaiti authorities to see if they can help find her.
ضد القانون. لا يجوز له أصلاً أنه هو يتنازل عن العمل. المفروض كان واجب من صاحبة العمل هذه ما تتداول بهذه الطريقة. أي واحد يتعامل بالمسترجع احنا قاعدين يعني نوقع عليهم العقوبات. احنا هذا الفيديو راح نبتدي نبحث عنه يعني.
10 days later, they managed to find the girl, who we are calling Fatu. She'd been sold to another employer. They take her to the government-run shelter for domestic workers, where she's interviewed by a government official. She admits to being underage and is deported back to Guinea. Fatu is one of hundreds of underage girls trafficked each year from Guinea, West Africa. She's now living with an adopted family in Conakry, the capital city. Fatu says she worked for 3 different households in her 9 months in Kuwait, but was only paid 2 months' salary. She didn't want to show her face on camera, but she wants her story to be heard. Fatu is looking forward to starting school again and rebuilding her life in Guinea. But there are still thousands of domestic workers being bought and sold on Instagram, Haraj, and other apps available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. The policeman and the woman who tried to sell us Fatu did not provide us with a statement, and no legal action has been taken against them. The Kuwaiti government declined to comment further on Fatu's case. Following our investigation, For Sale, the app which was used to sell Fatu, removed its domestic workers section and said,
"The allegations are appalling and ones that For Sale completely condemns."
Facebook, which owns Instagram, told us,
"We do not allow content or behaviour on Instagram that may lead to human exploitation."
Haraj, the commodity app used in Saudi Arabia, did not provide us with a statement. Both Google and Apple told the BBC that this type of behaviour has no place on their application stores, and they are working with app developers to better prevent illegal activity like this on their platforms.
You have seen it all. You have seen it all. That is a pure case of human trafficking. A girl is 16 years. In law, a girl below 16 years can do minor labor, can do minor work, light work, cannot enter a contract. She's only 16 years. In law, she cannot enter a contract. So that was a pure case of human trafficking, but also violation of labor laws. But look, nothing was done to the family that was enslaving this girl in Qatar. Many African girls are in the Middle East working as slaves. These are modern day slavery. Do you know that actually African girls are put on a market like dogs, like animals, like cows, like hens, and auctioned in the Middle East, in Arabic countries, that black girls, African girls, are put on a market stall and auctioned like chattel in the Arabic world. And we have seen it all, that they are using platforms like Facebook, Apple, and others to advance modern day slavery. Even when Facebook and Apple and others say no, but we clearly know that they are using the internet to promote modern day slavery. Let us look at the other part of this conversation. Hussein Baya is going to be showing us more of this information prepared for this show. You are most welcome. Let us have a look at the next one. Now, human trafficking and modern slavery is the talk today. Baya, please make them run faster. Make them run faster. And we have this done quickly. Yes. Now, human trafficking is modern day slavery and involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. Every year, millions of men, women, and children are trafficked in countries around the world, including the USA. It is estimated that human trafficking generates billions of dollars of profit per year, second only to drug trafficking, as the most profitable form of transnational crime. Human trafficking is a hidden crime, as victims rarely come forward to seek help because of language barriers, fear of the traffickers, and/or fear of the law enforcement. Traffickers are often use force, fraud, or coercion to lure people or their victims and force them into labor or commercial sexual exploitation. They look for people who are susceptible for a variety of reasons, including psychological and emotional vulnerability, economic hardships, lack of social safety net, natural disasters, and political instabilities. The trauma caused by the traffickers can be so great that many may not identify themselves as victims or ask for help, even in highly public settings. This is as defined by the UN. Now, human trafficking or modern day slavery is a multi-billion-dollar industry happening all over the world and can happen to anyone, no matter their gender, race, or age. It can happen to you. Here are some of the simple ways to get involved in Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Openly condemn human trafficking and modern day slavery, the way we do it here at Human TV Africa. Mark your calendar for 1/11 and wear blue to support human trafficking awareness. Use your voice to help spread the word about the World House Mission and, of course, other NGOs such as Human TV Africa that talk about human trafficking. And, of course, support the survivors in our care. Why is it so hard to stop human trafficking? Why is it so hard? Why? Because the companies involved in human trafficking are owned by people supported by regimes in Africa. In Uganda, for example, some companies are owned by members of the first family. Corruption makes it harder and complicated as girls easily cross borders and are trafficked. They go through the airport because of corruption. So you practically find their names everywhere: grains, coffee, oil, milk, construction, fresh products, technology, land, etc. As long as you are willing to give them a share or two in your business, you will get these people highly connected into human trafficking. This is great. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And of course, there are no embassies that are working for our people in the Middle East. Let us continue, please. Now, look at this license, the Gideon's Men Limited. Please, if you're in Uganda, go and look for a company called the Gideon's Men Limited. It's a company owned by Rwabogo and Rwabogo. And you know who Rwabogo is? These are members of the first family. They own this company. And this company has been pointed out in getting involved in human trafficking, taking girls into modern day slavery. They call it work, but they end up actually into slavery. This is one of the examples of companies in Uganda that are involved in modern day slavery. Now, every 2nd December is the International Day for Freedom Against Slavery. Every 2nd December. And of course, January is a month for awareness against trafficking and slavery. These are international days where you talk about abolition of slavery and human trafficking prevention, and of course, human trafficking and awareness day. You have all these days celebrated to remind you that human trafficking and slavery is real, and all of us should take part in stopping this kind of crime. And next slide, please. So each day, over 1,300 girls travel from Uganda to the Middle East into what is becoming modern day slavery. Every day, you can imagine, every day, 1,300 girls travel from Uganda alone to the Middle East. Now, how many do travel from Uganda? How many do travel from Kenya, from other countries that go into this kind of slavery? Please continue with other images, Hussein. Now, these are images to show you that these girls are traveling each day to go into the Middle East and end up trafficked, end up into modern day slavery in these countries. And this is sad. Next slide, please. You can see they are at the airport. They are going. And all these inspectors do nothing. All these inspectors do nothing to stop this kind of vice. Please continue with other images. Please continue with other images. Next image, please. Continue with another image. It is not easy to eradicate trafficking because in order to eradicate it, your conscience needs to change. Exactly. Your conscience must change if you are going to eradicate human trafficking. 2 million children are exploited in the global commercial sex trade. You can imagine children are exploited in global commercial trade, and these are 2 million children. How painful is it to parents that your child of 9 years, 10 years, 12 years is into sex trade and by trafficking? If you're not aware of something, we cannot expect to fight it. This is why we are here as Human Civil Africa, to create awareness that there is a problem called modern day slavery, there's a problem called human trafficking, and all of us are responsible for this. We can fight it together. Please continue. Now, these are some of the campaigns that are being done worldwide to make it stop. Wear blue on specific days. Remember, 2nd December and the entire month of January is dedicated towards fighting modern day slavery and ending human trafficking. It's a real problem. Now, these are girls leaving our airports, leaving Africa and going to these countries, most especially Arabic countries, where they are trafficked, where their organs are harvested, where they are killed, where they are turned into modern day slaves. Continue, please. And everyone is saying, help me, help me, help me stop this vice. It is a big challenge, especially in Africa, because the unemployment rate in Africa is high. Remember, among the 5 countries in the world facing unemployment, Africa has 4. Number 1 is South Africa. Number 2 is Djibouti. Number 3 is Congo. And of course, another country there is West Bank and Eswatini. These are countries with the highest level of unemployment, which means that it is easier to get young people from these countries and force them into modern day slavery. Now, how social media fuels modern day slavery? Social media platforms are dividing a driving force in human trafficking, enabling unscrupulous traders to entrap people around the world into forced labor, sexual slavery, and other exploitations. Many victims of human trafficking begin their perilous journeys on social media. Social media is full of traps, entrapped by criminals offering romance, friendship, fake employment opportunities, etc. There are scammers on the Facebook. There are scammers on YouTube. Watch out. Slavery starts on YouTube. Slavery starts on Facebook. Online platforms make it easy for traffickers to identify potential victims, especially those who post personal information about their financial hardships. Do not go on Facebook and post your financial hardships. They are going to use that to target you, to tell you there's a job. You will end up as sex slave in Europe, a sex slave in Asia, in the Middle East. because we have shown that we are struggling financially. And social media companies have been slow and very reluctant to crack down on human trafficking activities on their platforms. In many cases, they have developed encryption, and of course, this technology still allows this one to happen. Help prevent your child from being trafficked by monitoring the activities online. We are telling you, monitor the activities of our children online. They can end up being trafficked. Next slide, please. Now, these are organizations, these are individuals in Middle East. We call them kadamas, we call them house girls, maids, writing back and sharing with you their experiences and channels they are using to fight modern day slavery. Next slide, please. How do I contribute to modern day slavery? Is the question you're asking. How do I contribute to modern day slavery? By keeping quiet, by allowing young people to be online without monitoring them, by seeing wrong people being trafficked and keeping quiet, by participating in recruiting these young people, by becoming complacent, by keeping quiet, by not advising people how to safeguard their own rights, and by not reporting those criminals that are engaged in human trafficking. Next, please. Next, please. And that is it. How do I contribute? When you keep quiet. How do I contribute? When you don't share this video and this information to others to be aware that, look, it's a crime against humanity. That, look, 2 million young people are into sex trade. That, look, each year, Ugandans, over 1,300 Ugandans leave Uganda to go to the Middle East as modern-day slaves. That Kenyans live in their thousands. That many people in Nigeria live in their thousands, willingly going into modern-day slavery. How do we help? By creating jobs back home. How do we help? By putting pressure on our government to follow up on these individuals when they go outside. Countries like Taiwan, countries like China, countries like Yemen, other countries which send their girls to work in these countries have strong embassies that actually follow up on what's happening. Otherwise, for us in Africa, we leave everything to these countries because we have no agreements that protect these children, these young women and these young men in Arabic countries. Even the contracts we have, the agreements we have with these countries, the bilateral agreements are weak. These countries still have much power on us. Remember, countries like Jordan are not supposed to be taking these young women because of their past history of mistreatment. Jordan should be blacklisted and has been. But why should children be? Why should our children, our daughters, our sisters still go to Jordan, for example? Because we know how they have been treating girls, young women from Africa. We know how they are treating them in Saudi Arabia. We know how they are treating them in Iraq and Iran. We must, as countries, put measures to protect our people from exploitation. And we must report whenever we see these injustices being done. Thank you so much. It has been a wonderful show having you here. Please do one thing, share it, share it, share it. Take the information wide and far. See you in the next one.